everyone, and welcome back on Pickle again. And we were working on, the last time we were working on this little piece right back here underneath the torsion tube that we had to cut out that was all punky underneath here and around right where the tube was welded to the frame. So we're going to finish making that, and then I've got to make the piece that comes around, sorry you're getting a sun glare there, comes around and kind of grabs the torsion tube and finishes itself to this piece of the framing. We've already got the piece in down here, and we're sorry, I keep getting you in the sun there. Try going from over here maybe. We're going to go in and make this one right now. I need to trim it down a little bit, and I've made the mark where that needs to be trimmed down to, and then we'll make the piece that goes up on top. But before we do that, I'm going to show you a little something I picked up at an auction this weekend. You can get jealous now. You know me and my auction going self. I saw hanging behind the garage door at this auction this light. And this is not a Volkswagen Cyclops light, but it is going to be. It is a 19, I believe, 46, 47, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, Chevy truck, I think is what those came off of. And then I bought another bucket there at the auction, a bucket of lights, and it had this ring in it. I do not believe this is the correct bezel, but it fits on there, and the patina matches, and it looks pretty good. So we're going to go with it. So since we got Pickle turned sideways, I'll throw it up here on the double cab, and we can take a look and see what it looks like. Now, I do not know who originally figured out that that will fit on a bus, but it fits perfect. So that will go on little Pickle. How cool is that? And it's not shoved all the way back. I've got to have it balancing right here. So when you put it where it's supposed to go, it fits the roof line absolutely perfect. I won't even have to modify it. But I would like to put it on the double cab, but I don't want to drill holes in a perfectly good roof. Sorry, Pickle. But the double cab is not getting drilled up. And it fits perfect because the mud daubers have already established a nest in there. It is missing, like I said, the bezel, and then there's a piece that goes, flip it over here, there's a piece that goes on top here. You can see there are these holes here, and it was, I believe, like a turn signal, had a clear lens up front, and it sat on top of the light. If I can find a picture of one, I'll put it up here and you can take a peek at what it's supposed to look like up here. And then this bezel, I believe, was chrome from the factory, so we're to a non-chrome. But I actually like that a lot. I think that really looks pretty nice on there. So we will put that on old Pickle. Good score. And while we're up here up front, I was going to point this out the last video, but I put that rust treatment on there, and it's actually easier to see now than it was then. But you can see the paint color is written in here. It says Blau, B-L-A-U. It's the German for blue. So that's written in there. A keen-eyed YouTuber caught it also. Pretty cool that that's in there. All the little neat things like that make up for some of this. That is not so neat. Let's get busy, shall we? I just kind of took the grinder around those edges and kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Let's take it out how it fits. Still got to make that top piece on there, and I may have to bring that down just a little bit here on the top to marry into that other piece, but let's see what we got here. want it to fit snug, but have enough room for a weld to go in there. Whoop. Hard to get you in there. The dummy that made this rotisserie put a bar right there. Kind of hard for you to see. I don't know who that big dummy was, but made it difficult for film life. That looks pretty good. I think I'll knock down the top edge just a little bit right there. That fits pretty good, I think. Got a little bit of a sun glare we're dealing with here. We won't have to worry about that too much longer. The sun will be down and past that, so we'll be good. I've got that little piece with magnets just held in place, and I've got a contour gauge. I'm going to go ahead and get the pattern of that, and that way we know exactly what we're digging for once we get there. Go ahead and make that little bit right there. That's good. And then I've got a piece of paper over here. And I'm going to have to get my hands just a little bit dirty. Just got off work, so I'm not quite ready for pickle work. So that's the dust from and rust from the last video. That should be good enough to make a pattern. I'm just going to put this up there. I'm going to go ahead and trace out that little contour piece we just did so that I have a piece to stick up around that, and then we'll make the pattern. So I just use the contour gauge to give us a starting point at least. We know kind of where to go. That should get us. Wish my hands were a little bit dirtier. It works better. And we're gonna go kind of right up on top of that piece. I should be able to make something out of that. Well, with a little fine tuning with the grinder, this is what I've come up with. It fits pretty well in there. I think it'll be just fine once we get that all welded up. You won't even notice. Good as new. The original stuff's really thin. And not just from rust. It's just thin. My double cab isn't all rusted out, and it's pretty thin too. Need to put just a little bit of a bend in that. So I'm going right over to my little frame right there. Just using that to put just a small little bend in that. Doesn't need much, just a little bit. It should probably do it. And back up you go. They go too much, they're just right. That looks pretty good. Line that up. Go ahead and put this one in. Need to get another set of these little magnets. It's dropping just a little bit. Let me try using the stronger one down here. There's a little bit bigger size. Oh, there we go. That should hold it in place. Still jumping back just a hair. You booger! Let me get that in there. There we go. Sometimes you just need to tell it who's boss. And I kind of forget which way this goes. This way. It goes in there. Well, I've got that pretty good, I think. Best I can do with what I have to work with. We're still a little high here, but this is kind of caved in a little bit right there, so I'm going to take a claw and kind of pry that up a little bit before we put that other piece under it. And then I think we're pretty well ready to weld that piece in. And then we'll fabricate this other piece. Hopefully we can get to that today. Well, pretty happy with that. Looks alright. Well, that is far from perfect, but it is the right shape, and I think it's strong, so I'm not worried about it. Wish I could get the camera in there to show you. It really good penetration all the way around, so I think we're in pretty good shape, even where the torsion tube is. I did go ahead and fix the little places I boogered when I put the brace on the wrong side. I initially had this brace on the wrong side, and I had to move it. So when I cut that off, I got a little trigger happy with the plasma cutter and kind of got into the torsion tube a little bit, so we repaired that. And now we just need to make this piece. And I used a piece of 2x4 tubing on the last one and kind of split it and spread it out and then pieced in the pieces that I needed to make it wider. So we'll go get some tubing and we'll get this piece made. I also need to take a cut wheel and cut this so it's a straight line rather than that hack job there. So I'm going to shoot past the torsion tube to about where that starts to tip up. And we're going to cut ourselves a piece way long. Let's go 39 inches. That'll be plenty. Definitely don't want to cut it off twice and it still be too short. So let me go cut a piece that's 39 inches. So in the other piece, I came back 7 inches. I'm only going to come back 6 on this one. Live and learn, I guess. I'm going to come back 6 inches. Woo! Might want to tighten that in the vise a little bit. There we go. And we're going to cut out this piece here. So I'm going to go along. We're just going to cut that out. I'll draw a straight line there. Okay, so this will all get cut out. Make sense? Yes, this wouldn't have to be a straight line, but I like to get it as close as I possibly can. And then here we'll just try and keep it on a line. Guess I could draw a line. I don't know if I can stay on it or not, but we'll try. I got a freehand cut this one. I could use the plasma cutter, but honestly, I've used the cut wheel so much, it's probably just easier to use a cut wheel. And that Sharpie is dead. Let me get another Sharpie. That's a little better. All right. All right, got that piece cut out. Now what I have to do is go along up here and cut the length of that on both sides so that we can flex these two pieces. And then we will cut the rounded portion for the tube, and we'll flex both of these ends out, put it on the bus, and then we basically patch in and bend how those go, and then we'll piece in the pieces on either wing. And that's what you end up with when you cut it, like I was saying. And because of the nature of metal, it's been forced into this square box, into this form. When you cut down the seam like that, and I try to go as dead middle as I can. I don't know if you can see or not, but I left a little hanging on each one. So I tried to go right in the middle of that seam, and what that makes it do is kind of naturally want to spread out. So we've got that already started. And we just need to go get the contour gauge and make our piece right here that goes around the torsion tube. And then make the others kind of beat them into submission, I guess, where we want them. The hard part's done. So to kind of get the orientation, I've just cut out my around the torsion tube piece and then traced along where my tubing is. I think that should get us. So this point here will be where we're squared up on the 2x4. So by doing that, that basically tells me how far back to set this circular part here. The entire torsion tube, set down my tape measure somewhere. Must have left my other tape back at the bus, but the entire thing is 3.5. So that's basically as far back as we can go. I can't make it curved because we're putting it around a circle, so I just have to make it kind of parallel lines as it goes back behind it. So that should get us. That piece should be good. So I'll go ahead and trace that out, and we'll get that cut, and then we'll move on to piecing in to make it one piece again. Yeah, it's not a perfect plasma cut, but close enough to get us started anyway. So we'll get going with that. Well, I've just kind of taken a grinder and cleaned up the edges a little bit and bent this piece back a little bit. I know I'm probably going to need to come out a lot more, but that's a starting point anyway. So let's take it back to the bus, or out to the bus, and see how close or how far we are, and then we'll tweak as needed. So hopefully you can see okay from right there. Let's see what we've got here. Top piece is like dead on. Couldn't do that again if I tried, could I? I'm gonna pause you, and I'm just gonna take a dead blow hammer, and we're just gonna give that a good whack right there to get that to go down. I don't want you to be vibrating and hear that noise. So we're actually pretty close to where we need to be. This piece I need to bring down, so I'm gonna have to notch it just a little bit further to bring it down. And that will allow, see how we're kind of off a little bit right here, that'll allow us to go up a little bit more. But we're pretty well lined up. So I can live with that. Not too bad. And I may go ahead and just kind of take that point. Can't see back there very well. Take that point off of that, so that that's not kind of interfering with us. So I'll get a Sharpie and we'll mark there. And then I don't know how much further back I want to come. Maybe just like a 1/2 inch, just to get this out. Just need it to give me just a little bit of flex, so that we can then start making that curve up and around. Not too bad. I'd kind of forgotten how I made the other piece. I couldn't remember if I'd split it twice on both sides. And yeah, I did. This is how I did it. Amazing how quick you forget. I am old. I'm getting old. So I'm getting forgetful. Alright, let's take this off. I'm going to go knock that corner off, bring this back a little bit, and we'll come back out and do another fitment. Yeah, we got that in pretty good. I went ahead and cut off about 4 inches off of the end here so we can kind of tweak and fit a little bit better. This cross member here is the one that gave me fits on the other side, and I had to put a Bloomfield jack and get it out of my way. So I'm probably going to do the same thing here. I can shove up on the piece and it'll move it out of the way, but I need it to stay out of my way. Right now I'm just kind of going in and tweaking and modifying. I'm going to cut a notch up here and take off about 1/4 inch off of that piece right there, so that it'll actually sit down, because we got this gap. I don't know if you can see that or not. We got this gap up here, right here. So I want that to sit, and it can't because it's hitting right there. And then when we start up here, I've got a couple of marks. The back mark is where we kind of need to start tipping that piece down, and then the mark that's down there at the end is where I'm going to cut it. Actually, I'm going to cut it a little bit further back than that. So that is the marking for that piece. And then once we get that notched out, I'll start kind of curving this around. This looks pretty good up here though. Pretty happy with that gap. It'll hit back all the way. I just don't have it back all the way right now. Going together easier than the first time I did it. Second time's always better. But yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely push up. I don't know if you can see that or not. Push up on that guy. It's where that floor, this isn't attached to anything. And if it is, it's so rusty. It's just sagging. It is attached, but the piece it's attached to I don't think is attached to anything. It's this inner rocker piece and it's moving. So, I want to leave it in there until we are ready to redo the floors. And in fact, I just welded it back to that piece. I'll do the same thing here probably, but for now I need to get something to shove it out of my way. So let me go cut that notch out. We'll cut that piece and bend it up where it goes, and then we'll come back and do a fitment. Just a whole bunch of this stuff. Cut, modify, bring it back, cut, modify, bring it back. But I like leaving it intact as one piece and actually flaring the end and making that fit. I feel like that's going to be a lot stronger. And I've mentioned before, but I'll go back in and we're going to patch in the spots that aren't filled there and right here. And I'll do the same thing on this side. So it'll be a solid unit again. You know, and by doing it the way we're doing it, we're not changing the structure on any of the bends. Any of the tubing bends from the factory. So once that's all together, it'll be pretty strong. The top spot is pretty much dead on right here. And this one I'm just using 2 pairs of pliers and kind of starting to make that bend. So I'll show you. You have to kind of hold in place with 1 pair because we don't want to reduce this gap. So I kind of have to use a pair of pliers to hold in place this piece and then start curving that piece around. Let me set you up here on the old scooter and I'll show you what I'm doing. So I found it's easier if you put it on the ground, so you can at least I can. If I have it in a vise in the shop, I can work on it, but I just put my foot on it. And then I'm gonna go right-handed actually this time. And we're just gonna go right there. And you know, middle will spring back. So when you bend it and you shape it, you sometimes have to, well, you almost always have to overcorrect it, and then it's going to spring back to where it was. So let's see what we've got with that fit. So I was kind of just guessing on how that curve kind of goes. Let's see how close we are. I apologize for the bend. I'll try to go light on you. Actually might need to take out, maybe not. Might need to take out a little bit right there. We'll see. Try to remember to turn the volume down up there so it's not deafening you. Yeah, we're getting close. I'm going to go and cut just a little bit of that off to make my life a little bit easier. I could probably force that up on there, but it's just gonna fight me. So we're just gonna go trim just a tiny bit off of that, and I think once we do that, this piece actually might be pretty good. It's just hitting. What happens when you cut them like that, they want to twist a little bit. So we've got, I could force that out, but let me just go trim that piece, make life easy on us. It's already hard enough as it is. That is thunder in the background. That is not Pickle growling at me. I've got this piece now about where I want it. A little bit of tweaking with the pliers and bending back and forth. That's pretty close. I don't want a real harsh line here. I want it to smoothly transition into this piece. So I'm going to stop bending right there. I can push that to where I want it just fine. So I definitely don't want to tweak on that anymore. And I'll hold that there. We'll brace everything and then we'll make these patterns here, and then I'll come out and actually piece those in out here on the bus and just tack them in, so that way when we take it off and then go finish weld it, it will actually fit back on here. So all we have left to do is cut those pieces there, and this one can be welded in. Well guys, I just think the universe wants me to film. We just took a pretty good beating here. Storm blew through. That's the second one in the last couple days I've been out here working. And my welder took a bath. I ripped the tarp off of Pickle's engine and threw it on my welder. Aaron's in shop vacuuming the garage because it got wet. I had the door open. Pickle took a bath. This is just nuts. Everything's blown out of its normal place. Pickle's buckets are full. Wow. That was brutal. Now the hail has started. I don't know if you can hear that or not. It's hailing. Hear it hitting the tin roof. It's not very big, but that's what we're getting. Just getting ready to cut the last little fill-in piece on that torsion tube frame piece, and I need to make this little cut right here. I thought I would just mention that I have this clutch metal bandsaw, which is awesome. It has a vise down here, and I apologize for the mess. We had a storm and we just kind of threw everything on this table. But if you make yourself a little bracket and weld a table on it, cut a notch in it, you now can use it this way. The only complaint I have with this saw is there's no way to lock the trigger pull. So there's a switch down here with your speed controller, and then the trigger pull when you're chopping with it, like a chop saw, is up here. But there's no way to lock that. There's no trigger lock up there. So I've just put a piece or a set of clamps on it, and then I just use this as my on-off. But if they could just make a trigger lock up there, this saw would be the perfect saw. But yeah, you can just make yourself one of these, and then I just put a couple brackets underneath to make it a little bit stronger. But it works out great. And I love the saw. The saw works perfect. That's the only modification I would make as of right now. But it's really nice. It has the vise in it, built in it and everything. Pretty cool little saw. I decided to throw that in since I'm getting ready to make the cut. I hadn't showed. It hasn't been too long ago I made this table. I hadn't showed that, so thought I'd mention it. Oh, and I'm sure that they probably did that for safety. To keep people like me from doing what I did with it. But it's done now. Always a workaround. Just don't put your fingers where they're not supposed to be and you don't have to worry about it. So I got my two pieces cut that go on the two halves I have split here. This one fits pretty much perfect. It's kind of slipped down a little bit. Here we go. And then this one will go in down here. Now there is what appears to be a gap between here and the old frame, but we got to keep in mind that we're going to be dropping it down quite a bit, and what that does is it makes that end pop up, so we got to allow for that. The last time was about 1/4 inch difference, so that's what I allowed for this time. So it looks like it doesn't line up right there, but it will. Just trust me, it will. I think we're pretty good there. Just need to weld those pieces in there and we'll be good to go. So this is kind of what we have before we get started piecing anything in. And it holds its shape pretty well when you take it off. So that is what I have done thus far. And then all of this will get essentially welded back into a box back here on the back side as well once it's back on the truck. So we'll piece in these pieces first and then weld the back side in. Moment of truth. Sorry, you're gonna be getting the sun glare. Let me get you right here. Try and keep you out of the sun. I don't know if that's gonna be possible or not. Will she fit? Let's see. That's hot. Don't touch that. It's gonna be tight, that's for sure. That's what we want though. Cover your ears. Ah, it's gonna be perfect. That is gonna be perfect. I don't want to hammer it down too tight. There we go. All right. A little more finesse, and that is going to be a perfect fit. So with that, I am going to sign off for tonight. Finish putting this in there. I still have to, sorry I keep getting in the sun here. I still have to OSFO all of this, so I don't want to hammer that all the way down. It's going to fit perfect. It's snug. That's exactly what I want. We'll OSFO the rust treatment stuff on it, and then we'll primer, spray through weld primer. What am I trying to say? Weld through primer is what I'm trying to say. We'll weld through primer this, because once that's down I won't be able to get to it again and get that all in there. And then we'll be ready to cut, hopefully cut these braces out. I may leave this one in, excuse me, and just cut this angle piece out. And we should be able to flip that angle piece up in here when we go to start cutting that out. I'll have to make a taller one for when we go up here. But yeah, good deal. I should take a picture of it and see how close to the other one it is. I think it's pretty close though. The only thing on this one I did a little different is this square notch up here. I realized on that first one I couldn't get my welder back in there to get in real close, so I left a little room for me to turn the nozzle this way so I can get up in the top part there. Beats cutting a hole in the floor now to do it. So awesome. Second one in that fits. I wish my bus hadn't been rotten to this point. If it had been just up about another inch, inch and a half, we could have just sleeved in a piece of 2x4, but it can't be that easy. And I kind of had the idea that going around and kind of grabbing onto the torsion tube and having multiple weld points around would kind of give it strength no matter which way it decided it wanted to flex. So that was kind of my reasoning for thinking that way. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but we'll find out, won't we? All right, with that, everyone, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you on the next one. We got it hooked up, didn't we?
What's that singing inside there?
I think it's on the other side of the square. You want to drive around there and go see?
Oh, yeah. Let's go, Mama.
Okay, let's go.
We're on the corner of the square. Let's go on the sidewalk so it'll be faster.
Okay, I'll follow you.